Today, I'm going to walk you through my script on how I talk to sellers on the phone, what I say, in what order, and at the end, I'm going to give you guys a really special gift, okay? I'm going to specifically give you the scripting and the words that I use when I'm making my offers, whether that's a cash offer on a wholesale deal or whether that's a creative offer. I'm going to give you the words to use that allows you to make an offer that a seller is happy to hear and yet at a price that you want. So stay tuned and stay to the end, and you guys are going to get a special treat. Guys, my name is Ronald Walker. I'm your host here on Forged2Win. If you like this content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, and if you want, tune to that little notification bell because I got a lot of awesome content coming out specifically around how to talk to sellers, what it looks like to do owner financing, how to do marketing, and even more, guys. So I am excited to jump in. You know, when I first started this business, 2 years in, 3 years in, I was talking to sellers. And as I was talking to sellers, I would get one phone call from my direct mail marketing. And after the end of that call, I'd be going on a seller appointment. I'd talk to another guy who is in California, and we'd get through the end of the call, it'd go really well, and I'd make an offer over the phone. I talked to another one and they'd be like, oh, just drive by the property. I talked to another guy and he would say, you know what? I don't know what you want. And what would happen is the calls would end in different spots. And I was so frustrated because I would do deals and some calls would be better than the others and some calls would be worse, or some I'd be like, man, he's really motivated, but how do I lock him down, right? How do I lock him down? And then I would just be all over the place until I learned that there's actually a progression to these calls. So the very first thing that you want to focus on, the very first thing is opening the call. You see, you have a few seconds from the time you get on the phone to the time that they decide if they want to talk to you more. So that at the beginning, I like to say you want to start with kind of this undercover fire, right? You want enthusiasm that's built. Imagine you see a samurai on the street, and when you look at him, what do you see? You see confident. He's got a sword that's sheathed at his side, and you know that if that dude pulls out that sword, crazy stuff is going to happen. You want to give off that confidence, where if that sword comes out, man, it's crazy, but it's kept under control. You don't want to be too excited. You don't want to be too quick. You don't want to be nervous and, oh my gosh, what are you going to say? But you want to be confident. You want to be on fire. You want to start. And here's how you do it. You say, hey, seller name, how are you doing today? You just say it just like that. Hey, seller name, how you doing today? You don't want to stutter. Oh, they answered the phone. Hey, seller name, how are you today? And you want to start very quickly. Then you want to jump in. Hey, I'm calling because, and you want to give them the reason. Hey, I'm calling because I was interested in your house on 123 Main Street. Have you thought about selling? I might be able to help you. Have you thought about selling? Blah, blah, blah. And you want to open it very, very, very quickly. From there, they're going to decide within 2 or 3 seconds if you want to talk or if they think you're a salesman. You want to keep that downward inflection and you want to open it. After you open the call, guys, number 2 is you want to frame the call. This is what I was talking about at the beginning. You want to frame the call to the outcome that you want. And there's 3 things in framing the call that you want to get to. And the last thing is the most important out of the 3 things. Guys, for years, my family used to call me and I wouldn't answer the phone. They'd be like, Ronnie, why aren't you answering the phone? My brother would do it. My dad would do it. My mom would do it. They'd be like, why aren't you answering the phone? And then I would answer and I would talk to them and I would be on the phone for an hour and a half. I used to think, guys, I'm running a real estate business. I have 3 kids under 5. I'm married. I just got a house. I'm running around. I've got a team of like 9 people that I'm managing. And I'm on the phone for an hour and a half. I'm like, I can't do this. So I learned this thing where you literally frame the call. They would answer and I would say, hey, I've only got 5 minutes. I'm getting ready to walk into an appointment, but I wanted to talk to you real quick. Is that okay? Yeah. I learned that they'd rather talk to me for 5 minutes than not talk to me at all. And that's exactly what I want you to do with the seller. I want you to frame the call with a time frame first. How long is this going to take? Hey, Mr. Seller, it's going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes to, we'll get to that in a minute, but you want to start with a time frame to give the seller an idea of what's happening. Number two, you want to tell them what you're going to talk about on the call. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm going to talk to you about and ask you some questions about the condition, about your situation, and what's going on with the property. And then three, which is if I might say, the second most important thing, is you want to give them the expected idea of the outcomes, right? How is the progression of this call going to last? Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm going to evaluate it right on the phone. From there, I'm going to ask you some questions and I will be able to offer you a price right over the phone. How does that sound? Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm going to look at it, ask you some questions, come to a general idea of what our offer is. Then I'm going to speak to one of my finance partners and I will give you a call back with what your property qualifies for us. You're giving them the outcome. Hey, Mr. Seller, once we're done talking, if it makes sense, I'll set up an appointment. I'll come out and meet you in person at your property. Whatever outcome you want to state that to them and what that progression towards the sale is going to look like. And then the most important thing, guys, the most important thing, the more opportunity you give them to just leave, to show them you're not needy, that it's okay to not do business with you, the better. The more opportunity you give them to just leave, to show them you're not needy, that it's okay to not do business with you, the better. So the last thing you want to tell them when you're framing the call is you want to say, hey, if it works out, great. But if it doesn't, no worries. And then tell them what you're going to do. Hey, I'll refer you to a realtor, a friend of mine, and they can help you out if it doesn't work for us. So when you open that call, you start with confidence. Then you frame the call in your direction that you want to go. So the third thing, this is one of my favorite things to do, okay? After you open it, then you want to transition into motivation. And here's how you do it. So, Mr. Seller, I can't be the only person you've spoken to. Catch me up to speed. Why are you thinking about selling? And then you're just quiet. And then you open it up. And then from that point, you're digging into motivation. And to dig into motivation, there's a technique, Socratic questioning method. You want to use Socratic questioning, but I want to challenge this. When you're using Socratic questioning, you don't just want to say these questions over and over again. You want to highlight pain that they mention or highlight their situation. You want to draw it out. And so you ask a question, hey, why have you thought about selling? Like, catch me up to speed. Then you want to be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, when you say that you're going through this, unpack that a little bit further for me. And then they start to open up. And then when there's something they isolate on, hey, when you say your sister's been living in the property and moving out, what do you mean? Like now, later, what's that look like? And then they'll open up even further. When you say your tenant's giving you a hard time, what do you mean? And then you allow them to open up. And then from there, with the Socratic method, I want you guys to think about questions that are, would you rather? You kind of want to lead them down a path. Would you rather like this? Or would you rather like this? And you're giving them options and you're being a leader in the field of understanding why they're selling. So let me ask you, would you rather sell before the end of the month or after the new year? Oh, I'd love to do it after the new year. I'm really trying to lighten my tax burden for this year. Perfect. We can set that time frame up, no problem. And so what you're doing is you're pulling out the motivation. Well, after the motivation, then you guys want to dive into the property condition. And guys, the property condition is interesting. Now, condition is important. You need to know what the property needs. But in an acquisition call, this is a sales call, right? You're trying to get the property at a discount. You need to know what you're working at, but you don't want to spend too much time on the property condition. You know, the newest guys that I train, they always want to spend so much time and, oh, it's all about the numbers. Guys, it's not about the numbers. People do not sell to you for logical reasons. They do it for an emotional reason, okay? Now, they might need the price they need, but they're doing it in emotion. They're choosing to sell to you based on emotions. You know, there was a study that shows that if you remove the emotional component in the brain, people literally can't make decisions. So they're feeling it out. And if you go into the condition too much, you can kind of cause the seller to cool down, not be as hot, not be as open to want to selling it to you. So Guys, you do need to know things about the property, but asking questions about the property is an excuse for us to build rapport and understand and make them laugh and really dive in. Okay. After you dive into the property, number 5, I introduce owner financing. Hey, Mr. Seller, would you be open to selling your property and I pay you in monthly installments? Or, hey, Mr. Seller, would you be interested in selling your property on seller financing? Or, hey, Mr. Seller, you know the market's shifting. Would you be open to selling on seller financing to get a better price? All of these questions are introducing the idea of owner financing. And if they say yes, usually they're like, what's that about? Tell me a little bit more. You need to go down your owner financing process, right? Then I go into my owner financing stories. I got 4 stories that are for another video that you have to keep watching. But I go into my owner financing stories and I go to explain it. And remember, you don't want to go too deep, but you do want to start going down that process to see if it's something they want to dive into. But that's after property condition. Once you're there, then you go into roadblock. Number 6 is, what are the roadblocks? You know, there's a guy, John Martinez. I took his sales training years ago, and it introduced me to this idea that there are roadblocks to the seller. And the roadblocks are the things that are in their mind that they're not bringing up. Oh, I've got to talk to my wife. Oh, I've got this going on. It's something they're uncomfortable about that they haven't said. In roadblocks, what happens is you'll have a great conversation with a seller, with a prospect, but then when you get to the end, they'll tell you, I need to think about it. And what's really happened is you weren't addressing a roadblock in their mind. And so what I want you to do is I want you to bring those roadblocks out. And the number 1 roadblock that I run into is the idea of other competition, is the other options that the seller has. And those other options specifically are real estate agents and other investors. So what I like to do when I bring that up, I like to bring up the competition. Hey, Mr. Seller, like I said earlier, I'm not the only guy you talk to. Let me ask you, why would you sell to me over someone else? Why would you choose to sell to an investor over an agent? And then shut up and listen to them and ask a Socratic question and figure it out. Once you're there, here's my favorite part. Once you kind of figure out and you explore that, this is where I introduce the concept of relational capital. Now, relational capital is very, very, very powerful. And the reason why is you will be introducing why you're different at the competition question stage. Now, here's how it goes. Hey, Mr. Seller, listen, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Listen, there's a lot of investors here in the Grand Rapids area. There's actually like 2,700 active investors here in Grand Rapids. And I know a lot of them. I mean, they're great husbands, they're great wives, they're great fathers. Like, there's a lot of good people. But let me tell you why I'm different. And what I do is I introduce my core values. And here's how I do it and show them my differences. You know, when I go into a transaction with a seller, to me, it's more than just buying a piece of property. Yes, I want to help you, but I invest all of my emotions, all of my time and my energy in every transaction that we buy. And we really believe that this is personal based, that I want to deliver an elite experience for you so that this is literally the most convenient process you could ever possibly go through. And so we dedicate a lot of time, a lot of energy into making sure that this is as convenient as possible. And in the midst of that, what we're going to do for you, Mr. Seller, is we are going to eliminate all the confusion with the paperwork, with the numbers, and with the fees. And so you won't have to worry about anything except for the number we talk about today. Number 2 is we care so much in our company about affecting the community that we want not only to build and make it easy for you, but we want to take your property and we want to make it the best property in the area. We want to breathe life into this property, or have this property brought life into through our company, through the connections we have, so that we're impacting the community and taking a blighted property and making it one of the best properties. And we do that by allowing this transaction in your house to impact the community in a positive way. And then the third thing, Mr. Seller, that we really care about, that just drives me crazy, is that people who aren't consistent, they don't answer the phone when they call, they leave you hanging, 2 days later they do this. That stuff drives me crazy. And so one of our core values is to be consistent. Now, Mr. Seller, and here's the kicker, there's only one thing that I need from you, is that if we go into this and we pour our time and energy, I just need you when we call or need something to answer the phone. If you'll do that and you'll be available for us, we'll make this the best transaction possible. That is relational capital. And that's exactly what you want to do. Organize it around your core values. What makes you different? A lot of people think, I got to be better. I got to be one step above. It's not about being one step above. It's about being different. It's about breaking what they're used to hearing. Just be a little bit different. Figure out what that is and communicate that, and you will create relational capital with your prospects. But I like to do that right at the point where I'm bringing up other competition, and then I bring relational capital on how I'm different to that competition. The next thing you bring up under roadblocks is who's influencing them. You know how many times I've gotten to the end of a conversation or met somebody in person and they say, I need to talk to my wife. And I didn't ask the question. Guys, it's so frustrating. I know you've been through it. I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to my husband. I need to do this. Well, if you bring it up early, you will be able to avoid this. You can't do it completely, but you can be like, hey, is there anybody else who would be upset if you sold this without talking to them? Oh no, like, do we have to get your husband involved? No, I'm making the decisions. Are you sure? Like, we could just call her and get her on the phone. No, I'm good. Okay, cool. But just bringing it up, it takes away that objection at the end. So you want to bring up the influencers in the background. The next thing you want to bring up is the things that they're worried about. Moving, their tenant being in the property. I can't tell you how many people want to make sure their tenant's taken care of. So you got to solve that problem. This is how we're going to take care of them. Hey, Mr. Seller, we have a hello goodbye process with all the tenants that we buy properties with. Here's what it looks like. 1, 2, 3. Do you like that process? Would you like to change it? And you introduce that and you solve the problem. And then the last one, this is my favorite, guys. You introduce the money. And I told you early on that if you waited to the end, I'm going to tell you how I make my offers. This is it right here, okay? Here's how you introduce the money. You say, hey, Mr. Seller, based on everything you told me, and then you do a small presentation based on the whole conversation. And what you do is you re-summarize each point. Hey, Mr. Seller, you said blank, you said blank, you said blank. They're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. If anything needs to be corrected, you correct it and you talk about it. Yeah, that's right. All right, so based on all of that, what do you feel like the property is worth, or that is a fair price to sell it, or the least you'd take for it? That's all you say. And then you're quiet. Whatever they say, you say, awesome. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. You know, for me, based on what I'm seeing in the area, I know I wouldn't lose money if I was to buy it at anchor your home run price. What would be a home run? And you share it with them. But Mr. Seller, I know you would never do that. And then you just be quiet. You just stay quiet. You see what they say. And then you say, okay, well, I think if we came in this range, we could make a deal. Would you be open to something like that? Or how close could we go? Then you relieve pressure and say, no problem. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to talk to my financial partners. Let's see what the property qualifies for our portfolio. And then from that time, you say, this is what it looks like. I'm going to call them. I'm going to talk to them. We're going to analyze the numbers. It's going to take me about 20 or 30 minutes. And then I'm going to call you back. And then you reframe the next call, guys. You want to reframe that next call. I'm going to call you back. I might have some additional questions on the property condition, some other things that they caught that I didn't get in this first phone call. And then I'm going to tell you what the property qualifies for, and we can go from there. If it's yes, great. If it's a no-go, that's okay. All I ask from you is that you just be able to give me a yes or no. Is that cool? Does that sound fair enough? Sounds fair. Awesome. Are you available here in about 30, 45 minutes? All right, I'm going to call you at 2:30. Is that cool? Yep. All right, I'll talk to you soon, Mr. Seller. Thanks. Boom. And you hang up the phone. See, the idea here is that you start strong, you get through, and you end strong. And that you get through all of the talking points that is in their head. And then once you get through, you call them back and you make the offer and you talk to them about the property. But guys, sharing the money is not very hard. All you have to do is say, it would be a home run deal for me at this price, and then you'll win. So guys, this is the Forged2Win channel. I want to answer your questions, and in the comments below, you'll see a link. If you click on that link and you go to it, it's going to have a section where you can ask a question. You don't even have to put in an email. Just ask it. I want to answer these questions so you guys can win, and so I can put out some content that you want. Go in there, click on the video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, peace.